What's up, awesome YouTubers? Ryan1988 or Justin back here to do a video for you guys, and it's been a while since my last video, but I wanted to make finally a video for 2020, new decade, new year, and talk about one of my favorite genres or subgenres, and that is the slasher genre, or the slasher subgenre. I'm going to do my top 50 favorite slasher movies of all time. I thought this would be a perfect video to start off a new year and new decade. And this is a video response to Drum Dums. I loved his top 50 favorite slasher movies, so this is my top 50, and I got some honorable mentions that I have to talk about. And I'm going to go through these pretty quick because there's a lot here, obviously, but I hope you guys enjoy my video. So let's do some honorable mentions first, and then we'll start my top 50. First honorable mention is The Intruder. It almost made my top 50, but did not. Very close though. Love Intruder. If you've not seen it, it is a must. Very underrated one. I love the setting, which takes place in a grocery store. So very cool slasher movie there. Modern slasher movie that came out in 2018. I loved it in theaters and still love it now. Hellfest. Body Count, a very rare slasher movie. Is it a giallo slasher? Is it a Spanish slasher? I don't know, but I love this movie, and this one does not get talked about at all. You know, when I hear people talk about slasher movies, this is one that doesn't really pop up too much. There are people out there that know it, but it's very rare that I come across people who do talk about this. But Body Count, so good. Love that movie. The Girls' Night Out, Girls' Night Out, great slasher movie here, very underrated again, not a lot of people talk about it, but I love this movie and I wish this would get a Blu-ray release. And my last honorable mention is another slasher movie out there that if you haven't seen, I recommend. Great tension in the movie, very suspenseful, and it's kind of a mix of a thriller. Night School, love that. So going into my number 50 through 41, I'm just going to go through these, but this is 50 through 41. The first one is Tourist Trap, number 50. It starts the list. Love this movie. I forgot how much I loved this movie until I watched it again last year. Very good atmosphere, very eerie killer. The score is very eerie. I just love this movie so much, so had to make my list. Nightmare on Elm Street 2, Freddy's Revenge, one of my favorite sequels just in any of these slasher franchises or horror movie franchises. Love Nightmare on Elm Street 2, Freddy's Revenge. The Town That Dreaded Sundown, another modern remake, a modern slasher, and a reboot. That makes my list. Love this movie. Actually, the first kind of modern, remake on this list, but The Town That Dreaded Sundown, love this movie so much. The Prowler, another great slasher movie from the 80s. Joseph Zito, who went on to direct one of my favorite sequels in the Friday the 13th franchise, Part 4, directed this movie. Tom Savini kills are amazing. Eerie atmosphere again, and the killer is very eerie as well. So, had to, put that on the list. Graduation Day, another slasher movie that I just love and has a special place in my heart. I remember seeing this for the first time when I was kind of like exploring other slasher movies outside of the slasher genre. And in fact, there's a great documentary out there called Going to Pieces, if you've not seen it, where I remember seeing a lot of these slasher movies mentioned on that. So this was one of them. Love that movie so much. The Dorm That Dripped Blood, another slasher movie out there. And the first time I saw this was in 2012. I can't really remember how, I heard about this movie. I think it was other slasher movie fans. But I instantly fell in love with this movie when I saw it. It's one of my favorites. Great Christmas slasher movie, which not a lot of people know about that. But The Dorm That Dripped Blood, one of my favorites. A slasher movie mixed with other genres, but I consider it a slasher movie. Killer Party. Where's the Blu-ray? Again, I don't know, but this one deserves a Blu-ray release. Another sequel on this list, and for me, honestly, the first one I don't even consider to be a sequel, but that is Psycho 2. The first movie I consider, it's a horror movie, but not a slasher movie. So this is, in my opinion, the kickoff to these Psycho, movies that would become slasher movies. And Psycho 2 for me has the same formula of a slasher movie, but it's a great movie in general, one of my favorites. Nightmare on Elm Street 4, another sequel on this list. I love Dream Master, always have loved this movie. Dream Warrior is so good, and I do love that movie, but Dream Master for me is the better of the two movies. That is going to be something I'm probably going to get hate of, but I love Dream Master so much. The soundtrack, the characters, everything about that movie I love. The kills are great. Strangers Prey at Night, another modern horror movie on this list, and modern slasher. The first movie is definitely a home invasion movie, and what I love about the sequel is it went a different route. Yes, there's the style of a home invasion movie there, but it is definitely more of a sequel, and that pool scene is fantastic. I love it. So I had to make my list. It's one of my favorites. I go to it a lot. So going into number 40 through 31, the first one is Deadly Blessing. Love this movie. Again, it's a mixed genre of things, but I definitely consider it a slasher movie. This one right here is Friday the 13th Part 4, the final chapter. I love this movie. Always have. One of the most eerie ones of the movies in the franchise, but absolutely love Friday the 13th Part 4, the final chapter. Another sequel, love this movie too. Halloween 4, The Return of Michael Myers. Blood Rage, a rare Thanksgiving slasher movie. Love this movie though. I watch it every Thanksgiving. It is definitely a lot of fun. Very campy, very cheesy, but ultimately entertaining. And if you've not checked it out, definitely do so. Another remake on this list, and just a really awesome slasher movie. One of my favorites. My Bloody Valentine 3D, one of the best theater experiences I've had, and it was just so much fun to see it in 3D. It's one of my favorite 3D experiences, so My Bloody Valentine 3D, love that. Eaten Alive, another, well, I think the first Tobe Hooper movie on this list, but Eaten Alive, absolutely love this movie. This was his sophomore movie after Texas Chainsaw Massacre. I think he did another movie before Texas Chainsaw Massacre, but I consider it his sophomore movie. Love Eaten Alive, very underrated, and if you love Texas Chainsaw Massacre, go and track this one down if you've not seen it. Sorority Row, another remake on this list, but an awesome slasher movie in general. Love that movie. So, probably the rare gay slasher movie out there. I don't know if there's any others. If I'm wrong, definitely let me know. But this is just an awesome slasher movie in general. And that's Hellbent, and a very fun Halloween movie to watch, so had to throw that on there. I love that movie. It gets repeated viewings for me, so love that. Cherry Falls, a slasher movie that was supposed to go to theaters, but I remember it premiered on USA back in 2000. Another fun slasher movie. I go to it quite a bit, and every time I watch it, I still love it. And Hatchet. Love Hatchet again. One of those movies that I remember seeing it for the first time, loving it, and still love it today. Let me get a drink of water real quick. Going on to number 30 through 21. The Mutilator hits number 30. I love The Mutilator. Again, this is one of those movies I watch like 2 or 3 times a year. I just love this movie. I have so much fun with it. If you've not seen The Mutilator, go out and buy it. It is an awesome addition from Arrow. This is the first time it's ever had a US release, which is crazy to think that, but it's the first time it's ever had a US release, and this is the unrated cut, which they put a lot of the gore scenes that were cut out of the movie back into the film. It is awesome. Check it out if you've not seen it. So, the other Tobe Hooper movie, I have one more Tobe Hooper movie on this list, but this is my second favorite Tobe Hooper movie. That is The Funhouse, or maybe my third, but you know, still one of the best Tobe Hooper movies. Such a great slasher movie, very underrated compared to a lot of other slasher movies out there. I love the characters, I love the atmosphere, very eerie atmosphere, and a very eerie killer. So, takes a little bit for the slasher elements to start going, but it builds it up so well, and you get invested with a lot of the characters. And I just love this movie in general. So yeah, The Funhouse, if you've not seen it, check it out. Another remake on this list, but one of my favorite slasher movies, and these are all my favorites, but I love this movie, and I feel like it doesn't get enough love. House of Wax. Love that movie. I saw it in 2005 when it came out in theaters. Bombed at the box office, but for me, I still love it 14 years later, so love that movie. A slasher movie that came out in 2012, took me by surprise how much I love it, and I did an interview with the director, and if he's watching this video, Justin Russell, you are still the man. Love your slasher movie, which is The Sleeper. It never gets old for me. This one has a special place in my heart. I just love this movie so much, and it is a must if you've not seen it. Go out and check it out if you can. Jamie Blank's slasher movie. I love Jamie Blank. He made two of my favorite slasher movies out there, this one being one of them. That is Valentine. I still remember, and I still have my Snapper Case DVD, but I remember buying that. One of the first DVDs I ever had, still own it. I remember when it came out in theaters, and I really wanted to see it, but I was too young. But Valentine, love that movie. Another underrated 80s slasher movie that's kind of corny, but I love it. That's The Initiation, but I have to say it has a great twist at the end of the movie. Now, if you've seen Going to Pieces, you kind of see a little bit of a reveal there, but it does throw you off a little bit. So, but not Going to Pieces, The Initiation, one of my favorites, absolutely love it, and that is one of my favorite slasher movie artworks. Gotta love 80s horror movie artworks, it's the best. The other Jamie Blank's movie on this list, and I love this movie. It came out with Scream, and I know we did last summer, but did not get the love that it deserved until years and years later. So it's kind of built a cult following, but that is Urban Legend. Love that movie. Have a poster of it. Love Urban Legend. One of my favorites. Still holds up very well today. He Knows You're Alone, one of the underrated 80s slasher movies out there, and a really good thriller and horror movie. But I love He Knows You're Alone. First appearance by Tom Hanks, he's in this movie. Love the killer in this, very kind of, reminds me of the killer in The Sleeper, which I think The Sleeper kind of paid homage to this movie and several other slasher movies out there. But He Knows You're Alone doesn't get enough love, doesn't get a lot of talk. If you've not seen it, try to buy try to buy this DVD copy if you can. I think it's out of print, but I love He Knows You're Alone. One of my favorites. Another sequel, and one of the best sequels just out there in general, Halloween 2. Love that. And Just Before Dawn. Yeah, Just Before Dawn. Love this movie too. This is a very cool one because I saw it for the first time, I think, back in 2009. I think it was either 2009 or 2010. I can't remember. But this was another one of those movies that when I started watching other people's horror movie reviews and YouTube channels, like the horror movie community back then, this was one of those movies that a lot of people talked about, and this was one of those I had to go see, so I bought the DVD. I had the 2-disc DVD at one point. Loved that movie back when I first saw it. Still love it today. I think it actually gets better with each viewing, but Just Before Dawn, I put it up there. If you want to say it's a summer camp slasher movie, you could definitely do so, because it definitely has that vibe there. And I would definitely say it's up there with like The Burning and Sleepaway Camp and Friday the 13th. Just Before Dawn, if you've not seen it, go out and buy this movie. It is worth getting a Blu-ray copy of that movie and owning it in your collection. Going on to 20 through 11, we're getting down the list, and number 20 is a unique slasher movie, which I'm not going to spoil if you've not seen the movie, because it does have a really good ending to it and a very good twist. April Fool's Day. That's all I'm going to say. I don't want to say anything else about this movie, but if you have Going to Pieces, do not watch that documentary, because I saw that documentary before I watched this movie and it was spoiled for me. But I still say every time I watch this movie, the ending always gets me, because they did a really good job with the film, and then the twist is revealed. So, but April Fool's Day, can't wait for that Scream Factory Blu-ray. It's about time this movie got a Blu-ray release. Going on, I grew up in the 90s. I love 90s slasher movies. I have a big appreciation for them. That is, I Know What You Did Last Summer still holds up very well today. I think 21 years later, maybe 21 years later, it's gonna be 21. That's crazy to think that, or 22. But I Know What You Did Last Summer, just awesome. Awesome movie, one of my favorites. Another 90s slasher movie to come out, and you had to throw this on this list, or at least I did. And that is Scream. Kind of, revived the slasher genre. The movies kind of get flack. A lot of like the 90s ones, some people don't like them. I love them, and Scream is just hands down one of the best slasher movies out there. Love Scream. Love most of the sequels. Scream 2 is a great sequel, but the first Scream is still the best in my opinion. Going on to another slasher movie meets kind of, I don't know if you'd say it's supernatural, maybe, but Hell Night. Love Hell Night. Of course I had to mention this. I love Hell Night. Go check it out if you've not seen it. I feel like this one doesn't get enough love, but I love Hell Night so much. The first Christmas horror movie on this list, Silent Night, Deadly Night. Of course I had to mention this. I love all these movies. Again, I say love a lot, but Silent Night, Deadly Night, awesome movie. Going on to a classic first movie, and, kind of was different from a lot of the, sequels to come, but that is going to be Friday the 13th. I remember seeing this movie for the first time on VHS, and of course, Jason wasn't the killer in this movie, and I'd seen like a lot of the sequels with Jason, so for me, Friday the 13th kind of came later, maybe around like 2003 I saw this movie, because I'd seen a lot of the Jason ones, but I loved it when I saw it, and I still love this movie today, and I remember seeing the ending of the movie, not knowing what was going to happen, and I jumped out of my seat. It was such a great ending. Still is a great ending today, but Friday the 13th, had to mention that one. Going on to another summer camp slasher movie, and again, one of the best endings in a slasher film, that is Sleepaway Camp. Love this movie. Love the sequels, well, 2 and 3 I love, but this one is hands down still the best one. If you love pizza, you're definitely going to appreciate this movie, and I love eating a good slice of pizza with this film. Slumber Party Massacre had to make my list. I love Slumber Party Massacre so much. This one, I remember the DVD, the old DVD being out of print, and I remember seeing a recording on VHS tape. I can't remember what YouTuber sent it to me. I think his name was like Delamore back then. But I remember he sent me like a VHS tape with like different, slasher movies on there. And this was one of them. And I remember instantly falling in love with it. And I still love this movie today. So good, so good. Just one of my favorites. Very campy, but I love the movie. This one, some people might consider it a slasher movie. Some people probably won't. I would say it is a supernatural slasher. And that is Suspiria. Had to mention this movie. And it's a giallo movie, so love that. Going on to the next one, which is a Friday the 13th film. But that is Jason Lives. And this is my favorite Friday the 13th movie. I love Jason Lives. It gets better. Well, I wouldn't say it gets better with each viewing. I've always loved this movie. And I still love this movie. It holds up really well. The best of the franchise, the best Jason Voorhees we have out there. I know Kane Hodder is classic, and I love him, but I love CJ Graham as Jason, and I love this version of Jason. One of my favorites, so love it. My favorite Friday the 13th movie. Going on to my top 10 favorite slashers, going down the list, here we go. Number 10, The Burning. Oh yes, this had to make my list. I love this. I've loved this movie ever since I first saw it. And again, I saw this on the Going to Pieces documentary, which I'm gonna keep shouting that out because if you're getting into slasher movies, you need to track down that documentary. You might watch YouTubers' videos, that is a fantastic documentary on the 80s and the kind of rise and fall of the slasher genre. So, but a lot of my 80s slasher movies I've seen because of that documentary. This is one of them. Love The Burning. Tom Savini's effects, hands down, are the best in this. Love it. Very eerie slasher movie, very eerie killer, but love The Burning. Going into number 9, some people don't love this, and in fact, I've kind of heard people say they don't like this movie at all. I love this movie. Terror Train. One of my favorites, and one of the first ones I saw out of the mainstream slasher movies, or the mainstream, franchise slasher movies. Going on to number 8, I cannot wait to own the Scream Factory release. My old Blu-ray burned out on me, so I just have this DVD right now. But next month, I can't wait to own it. My Bloody Valentine. Now, there is the theatrical cut, and I remember seeing the theatrical cut being the first one I saw. And I liked it back then. But if you've not seen the unrated cut, that is the best one to watch, because I remember going back last year and watching the theatrical cut, and that is not a very good cut of the movie. I mean, I always have a special place in my heart for the first time I saw this movie, but the unrated cut with the added gore scenes back in it, that is the best one. I mean, hands down. If you were going to watch this movie, and if you've not seen it yet, and if you don't have this DVD, wait for the Scream Factory release, because that is going to be the best one. So, but My Bloody Valentine, Harry Warden, one of the best slasher icons out there. Love him. I put him up there with, Jason and Friday the 13th, or Jason Voorhees, Freddy Krueger, Leatherface, Michael Myers. Love Harry Warden, and love this movie. So, very good. And all very likable characters. Like, it's very rare that you find a slasher movie that has every character being very likable, but that one does, and I love that movie so much, for many reasons. Going on, we got House on Sorority Row, another slasher movie I absolutely love. Loved it ever since I first saw it. Still holds up very well. Great slasher movie there. Going on, we got Happy Birthday to Me, the first slasher movie. One of the first ones. Maybe the second one I saw outside of like Halloween and Friday the 13th. Some people don't like Happy Birthday to Me, but I love this movie. And I think it had a great twist. I remember not seeing the twist coming. I thought it was really good. Still really good today. But just one of my favorite, slasher films. So, Happy Birthday to Me. Going into my top 5 slasher movies. I put this one on my list. I consider it a slasher movie. I know Drum Dums, you said you didn't. I understand, but for me, I just remember seeing this movie saying that is a slasher movie when I saw it as a kid. I remember and I still love slasher movies, but I remember always going to video stores and renting these slasher movies because I love the artworks. And this one was one of them. Texas Chainsaw Massacre. Love this movie. The best of the bunch. Just fantastic. Still holds up very well today. I love this. Nightmare on Elm Street. Now, Wes Craven's New Nightmare is my favorite of the Elm Street franchise, but I don't consider that to be a slasher movie. This one is definitely a slasher movie. This was the first slasher movie back in the 80s that did something different. It was a supernatural slasher movie. Very creepy because Freddy Krueger was somebody who can kill you in your dreams, and you could not escape that. But Nightmare on Elm Street, I remember being a 5-year-old kid, sitting behind the couch, not moving because I was so terrified, and I did not watch this movie until I was 16, so I did not watch it again. But Nightmare on Elm Street, love that movie so much. Number 3, hands down one of the best, one of the best slasher movies out there, Black Christmas. Bob Clark's Black Christmas. Love this movie so much. Christmas viewing each year. Hands down one of the best horror movies and best slasher movies out there. So, love that movie. Now, this one probably wouldn't make everybody's second favorite slasher movie of all time, but the reason why it's my second favorite is because I remember buying the very bad DVD of this movie where you could not see anything, but I kept watching it because this is just one of the slasher movies that I have so many memories with. Seeing this movie outside of the mainstream stuff, this was the first one. And I still love this movie today, and of course I had to mention it. That is Prom Night. I love this movie so much. I know a lot of people don't like this. Well, not a lot, but I know it's kind of 50-50 with people. You have people who love it, people who like it, and people who just don't like this movie at all. The best chase scene in a slasher movie from the character of Wendy. Love that chase scene. Great music, very fun disco music. I love everything about it. Great characters, great kills. Very suspenseful film. And it builds up everything to the final act of the movie when all the slasher elements start happening. But Prom Night, love that movie. And my number one, everybody knows this, but if you don't, if you just started watching my videos, Halloween, John Carpenter's Halloween. What can I say about this movie that I haven't said within the last, 11 years I've been making YouTube videos? I love Halloween. I love the characters. I love the eerie atmosphere. Michael Myers is the scariest that he's been in any of the movies. It started here, and he's so scary in this. Builds up very well. Again, this isn't one of those, typical slashers that starts the slashing. I guess it starts kind of right away, but, you have a very long time before Michael gets to the, current people he's after. It takes a little bit. But it builds up characters really well. Dr. Loomis, Donald Pleasance, classic. Jamie Lee Curtis, Laurie Strode, I love her. The best horror movie in my opinion, the best movie, and the best slasher movie is Halloween. So, anyway guys, that is my top 50 plus honorable mentions. I hope you enjoyed this list. It's going on 27 minutes, so I'm going to end the video now. But let me know what your top 50 is. And if you haven't done a video response to Drum Dums yet, definitely do so. I'm sure he'd love to see your top 50. I would love to see your top 50. I hope you guys enjoyed my top 50. There were some that you probably would not put on the list, but in my opinion, these are the best 50 slasher movies out there of all time. So as always, you guys are awesome. You guys rock. In with the positive, out with the negative, and go eat some Skittles. All right, guys. Bye.